and talk about the wait being over, the championship of Misconfiguration Madness.
Hey. Finally here.
For making it. Thanks for sitting through the intro bit. We were potentially grabbing some refreshments and setting up for our new hour of the championship matchup. It's too funny. And Lawrence, we got to introduce you being the new panelist for this episode in this championship. Right? But it's funny how so many people in the industry, right? You get to have multiple meetings with a day. So Matt, Josh, great to see you again, talking cyber rise and framework mappings earlier today. So, I mean, it's just awesome to see the people doing things in the industry keep on doing things, and excited to see where that takes all of us. All right.
And Lawrence, I might as well do this live. Hey, Lawrence, I owe you a response to your email. Yes, we can definitely get together next week or so and rehearse our RSA proposal.
Perfect. Are you guys co-presenters?
We are. Yeah, well, you asked me if I knew him, and I was like, bro, we're presenting at RSA together.
Holy shit. I did not know that.
It is going to be a can't miss session. So
it will
need to get as many people from like the MSP community in the room, so we can load the room with people who won't throw tomatoes.
That is awesome.
I don't know, Lawrence. Have you seen our topics?
I absolutely have. But I
feel a bit hurt that I wasn't invited to be on this panel.
They might throw bricks in some of the statements you're making.
Any previews you can give? What is the topic? Are we allowed to share?
You or me, Lawrence. You or me.
Yeah. So go ahead. It's Zach. This is straight up your alley. Like,
oh yeah,
it's amazing.
Oh yeah. So we invented a company. We took 4T Engineering, and we did a talk about shared responsibility in which a threat actor, we built a kill chain, gains access through what seems to be an innocuous access to a system. The development network's on the same network as the other production network. They gain access to the code that controls C squared, and they take a whole bunch of water controllers that drop and poison, or in this case, treat water in all of these communities, and start having them change their chemical load by a large amount. And so we walked through that kill chain and then asked the question of, like, was it the MSP or the end customer? Where's the responsibility in this shared responsibility model? And have you even talked about it in some of these things? And so we're just kind of asking the enterprise players that are there and mid-market players that are there to really consider the shared responsibility understanding of their supply chain risk. So I figured that
I thought responsibility was always on the cyber insurance provider. No, is that?
I'll see myself out.
No.
Have you been vibe coding again, Zach? Is that what's going on?
Cursor told me it was true.
Yeah, I thought so.
And Josh, you've done your own fair share of RSA presentations. Any favorite topics you can share on some past presentations you've done?
I think one of the ones I did at RSA that I really liked was just burnout in cybersecurity, and how to handle mental health in a field that is largely taken care of by folks who are super aggressive about what they're into and like to go and don't stop. Not looking at anybody in this room that does that at all.
No, I don't feel seen in any way.
Austin would never do this while he's potentially on PTO right now. So
no, not at all. Yeah. My man PTO'd with a vest in his backpack, bro. I just want to make sure you know how committed this boy is right here. Like, you know what I mean?
Look, I know that these matchups are going to be hard, and there's going to be a lot of dangerous things going around, so I needed my safety gear.
Safety third, bro. Safety third.
Yeah, not a strong foundation, man. There's too much risk. All right. This is always fun with you guys. Before we do hop into it, Austin, Josh, Matt, thank you for coming again. We know who you are. Lawrence, give us the quick spiel. What do you know about settings? Why were you invited to this panel other than speaking with Matt here in a couple weeks?
I have no idea. There's something about the CIS thing. It's actually kind of cool to be here. It is really good. My firm, Corporate Information Technologies, we've been around for a couple of decades now. Before the CIS controls were the CIS controls, when they were still a SANS project, I stumbled on that SANS project and said, "Hey, this is like there actually might be some teeth to this thing, and really started digging in and just fell in love with the concept that while there is absolutely shared risk, there's also shared risk mitigation and shared risk treatment, and a lot of that starts with misconfiguration. Most of that starts with misconfiguration. So I've used the CIS controls as our company's North Star. Now this is going on year 15. So almost like the entirety of this curated list of its existence. I have a bunch of letters after my name that says I know something about this, but probably the one that I'll share here is, as an organization, we were the first organization to achieve the accreditation through CREST for the CIS controls, and I felt that was at a minimum, kind of a minimum, table stakes to be able to say that we don't just say it, but we do it.
I love that. I love that call out to CREST too. You know, getting a certification behind CIS is something that really didn't exist until they went behind it. And, you know, we had a little halftime sponsor shout out from CyberRise and what they're doing with framework mapping, but it'll be cool to see how vendors and, Sention itself is aligning and certifying that this is meeting this and that. So very awesome to have you here, Lawrence. And
thank you.
One other shout out to you. You'll be getting your own vest here soon enough, joining Sention CMMC hardening crew. So very excited to have you on there. And there's the hardening crew. Austin is willing to stand up and show where it is.
I love that. That is going to be so much fun. I'm just going to say, maybe before one of the RSA parties. I don't know. I mean, there's some RSA parties that could make a debut at.
Eventually, for those who don't know me, I do live in my RV, and we may have a tailgate one day for the hardening crew and start posting up at these shows a little bit before. You're
at RSA? Are you going to try to drive the street to San Francisco with the big bus? That would be
amazing.
I think I could put my 40-foot rig down the mean streets of SF. My dually truck barely goes, not pulling anything.
That would be
all
amazing.
Right, guys. I really appreciate it.
We got to get to work here.
Let's get to work. So, for those who are joining for the first time, we have our panelist here. Lawrence, you didn't make the cut because you were added a little bit ago last week, but
he can stand in for me. We'll just rotate in on answers. He'll say it the same way I'm going to anyway.
That'll be interesting. I have a feeling you guys will have some different point of views, but we'll see. I mean, this is the finals. There's going to be some upsets, some surprises.
I don't know, Zach. I mean, like Matt and I, it's like brothers.
Oh yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Separated at birth. Yeah.
Separated at birth. I mean, it's
he got the hair, I got the beard.
Much better facial hair.
Yeah, he got the eyes that work without glasses. I didn't. You know what I mean? That's where we find ourselves.
We shouldn't bypass this comment because we had the meeting earlier, so we don't have to ask. But highlighting Josh for a moment, where's the beard, buddy? Any good personal news in your life? Oh, you're on the wrong port, buddy.
Yep.
Got to unmute the mic. That's always an important thing. I had to shave the beard over the weekend. I got to swear my daughter into the Louisiana State Guard as a member of the Cyber Reserve team with me. So I had to get clean cut and in regs to be able to swear her in. So that was a cool family moment.
That's amazing.
Bringing her in.
Super exciting. Awesome. All right. And now that we have all the intros out, let's get into the rules. For those joining for the first time, there's 3 rules that went into this. And I emphasize the scenario and how settings win for now, because next year when we do this again, there may be some type of voting aspect and some grand prizes for some bracket winners. But for this year, there's 3 rules. You are a MSP and you can only harden one security setting or the other. And the critical thing here is there's no backup defense. There's no complementary controls. There's no EDR. There's no whitelisting. There is only this one setting against a default Windows box and a default environment. And the last thing here, we are going to debate. We're going to have fun. We're going to say who we think's going to win. But at the end of the day, to keep this agnostic and make sure our biases don't facilitate in, we are having ChatGPT be the ref. So in order to keep this as non-biased as possible, we have a standardized prompt of the AI being the ultimate referee and having the one setting go head-to-head and presenting a score. As a disclaimer, in the last episode, we did add the additional comment here to allow scores to go over 100, because it may have been called out. It looked like it was leveraging a 0 to 100 scale previously, and that is no longer the case. All right, let's see who this first matchup is. And we are doing the Elite Eight, Final Four, and the championship. All right, kicking into it, we have SMB1, who was Josh's pick for the win. Client driver being disabled, going against download restrictions block malicious. This is a browser hardening setting. Lawrence, I don't know if you know the format, but I want to call you out first. We got the legacy eliminator going against the malicious blocker. What are you taking here on a head-to-head matchup?
I am taking SMB V1 all day.
What's driving that? Why do you think so? No upset?
It is. It's highly exploited, easily exploitable. It is a default script kiddie attack vector that is readily available in all Metasploit. Not complicated to attack, and you can just move all over the place with this.
Man, you're not wrong.
And our browser course,
Lawrence, you're not wrong. But I got to get line of sight first.
All right.
In order to get line of sight, I'm gonna find that browser. I'm gonna take advantage of that, and I'm gonna get myself an endpoint, and then I'm gonna start abusing SMB1. And I would say, greater good wise, that the LLM feels that with no other protections in place, that the network itself would. Oh no, I don't know, Zach. As I say that, it could just very well be that it's like, no, this little machine's sitting out in the cafe now somehow. I don't know.
The top attributes don't even help us here. They are 1-to-1, a match for each other. This is a
I'm going to say the browser is more ubiquitous than the access to line of sight SMB1 via tax. But I would agree with Lawrence's initial statement too.
It is, but
it's Josh's cousin.
We can exploit SMBV1 remotely too.
So,
Josh, what we got on the buzzer?
I'm going to say SMBV1 just because it is the well-known, more pervasive, well-documented how to exploit. Although I think our LMM might kind of skewed a little bit to the block malicious because it's the browser-based set.
Austin at the buzzer. We got
it's a
close
2-point game.
SMB1.
One basket, bro.
Wow.
Look, I just got to say, as a lifelong Dolphins fan and playing against Tom Brady way too many times, I know better than to go against the legacy eliminator of SMB1. All right. So, yeah.
The GOAT prevails SMB1 even against a browser setting as important as blocking malicious, literally known malicious. It still took the W.
All right, Lawrence, you're right. Moniker links would allow for an extensibility of SMBv1 abuse externally, potentially, or at least certainly with SMB methodologies. And maybe a poor hash in one would be worse. So, all right, fine.
And we can keep the SMB conversation going because round one was the client driver, and this is just V1 disabled overall, and it's going head-to-head with the private Windows firewall, the home court defender against the SMB stopper. What you got, Austin?
Now, Windows firewall, we have to remember that this is just the private firewall, and although it does a lot, we don't know anything about the public firewall. That leads me to believe that I'm going to go to the right from my screen at least and going with SMB1, the SMB stopper.
Props.
Sorry, I just got to the Airbnb and they had a ping pong table, so I was like, all right, I got to do this. But yeah, sorry. Y'all talk.
Whoever has a prop can go next.
Which one? I don't know. Josh, what's your thoughts, man?
So I'm going to go SMB1. One, because, obviously that's my pick for overall winning, being one of the two SMBs. But two, private on means that it's detected that I'm on a private network, not a public network. That's a lot of other things that could be open.
True.
And, obviously
I'm with you.
In the scenario, I can't assume any other mitigating controls, but real world, if I'm on a private network, I'm assuming that there's at least some kind of network-based protection somewhere, whether it's a firewall, whether it's IDS, something. So I think, again, for the same reasons as before, SMB all day long.
I'm making it a plan to be wrong all day today, so I'm going to go with Windows Firewall Private On, and I'll make my argument of saying, at least in that way, it's trying to stop lateralization, and at home, where private is where the crown jewels are. So maybe an impact is higher, but I'm just trying to make an argument so I can be wrong. I'm cool. I'm going to gloat hard
Lawrence,
if I win.
any buzzer beater comments you want to add here?
Right.
All right, and at the buzzer,
it
was a one-shot.
Wow. Broken. This thing's broken, man.
I think as the matchups get closer, it's like I got to keep the games closer. It's waiting them all.
It's true.
All right. And we got another firewall, man. It's interesting to see how the LLM is weighting certain SMB firewalls. All right,
I'll go first on this one. I'm taking Windows Firewall Public on, even though
against the elevation enforcer.
It's because of the LLM. It's the constraints of the game, man. It's the one setting. Because like admin no approval mode enabled means that I've got hands on the keyboard and I'm trying to escalate to admin. If I'm looking at Windows Firewall Public, I'm in the public. I wasn't drunk in the bar. I was drunk in the bar. I got thrown in public. Now I'm in public, right? And so the point is that the firewall is going to block those inbound attacks against my device and try to do something to reduce the attack surface. So I'm going Windows Firewall Public. It's got its own safeguard, but these are tough matchups, man.
Yeah. I'm going to support the Windows Public rate for the purpose of like it is arresting lateral movement. It is if we assume that we are in public, that we are not at home, we are not inside of a network. Yeah, I'm going for
having Lawrence here. I'm gonna have so many parameters in next year's lineup. All these rules. Yeah. It's gonna get.
You're gonna have a 3-page case study for each one of these.
You're just going to quickly have it tell you what you have to do to pwn any given set of scenario, right? Like it's just going to weigh them so much that, you're just going to have an attack path, man. It's going to be like a $99 pin test.
We're injecting MITRE's attack chain into next year's lineup. All right, Josh, who are you taking here?
I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I'm going to say admin approval mode enabled. And that's just because, obviously not having them on the box is obviously ideal. But I think for bang for the buck, not letting them escalate and elevate their privileges is more important than them being on the box in the first place.
But the firewall comes in Control 4, and admin approval and escalation separation comes in Control 5. That's my other.
If we're talking about one control, that means this is an out-of-the-box default Windows system, which means I have all the joy. I have PowerShell that's listening. I might have SMB v1,
RPC.
I got RPC sitting there. Maybe some spooler. I mean, there's a lot of juice there.
And at the buzzer it goes, and it was not a blowout, but it's larger than before. That blocking network attacks cold with the public.
I'm at even math on the points, just so y'all know, right? Like I've literally lost 2 and 2 and got a 4-pointer here. So like, I'm seeing it as even, actually, in my mind.
All right, and if my math is correct, the last matchup of the Elite Eight, the dark horse of LLM prioritizing the password length, which Lawrence disclosure here. Game day impact on this one does say requires strong, so there may be some foul play where the LLM took into consideration.
But I don't think that'll matter here. I think the custom service principles is probably going to play out. I don't know. I'm torn, right? The custom service principles and the access to LSAS, like that attack vector versus the passwords. Passwords are more exposable and they use strong. I'm final answer passwords.
Yeah, I mean your attack surface definitely is broader with minimum password length. I mean, if we're saying one control. Right.
Yep.
So I can brute force this thing. I'm not going to get knocked out. Man, I'm going with minimum password length too.
So,
wow. All right, that dark horse might be moving. Josh, bring us back to the light.
I would go with the dark horse and say the disable SSP AP because it does protect your high value memory space. It prevents root level tampering. It stops things like Mimikatz injecting into LSAS. And I think that's a little more than what password length alone would give me, happy joyness.
Yeah. I
think it's going to be close, within 4 points. Within 4 points.
It's going to be a blowout for Pat. Right. The word strong. And the LLM's like, I trust you. Say it's strong.
Yeah, right.
The user's never wrong. Spring break 2025.
Exclamation
It is closer, but it is.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, that a boy, Josh. That's a tough win right there. That's a tough win.
Yeah.
That's a tough win. I'm with you.
It is. All right. And if I have my math correct, it might be up to the final 4. Now, there is a matchup coming up. If you did your bracketology, it's the matchup nobody wanted to see. Everyone feared. These schools are practically the same university, man. It's the Purdue versus IU. It is engineering this is madness, guys. And if you know where I'm going with this is the matchup we didn't want to see. What the hell is the difference? Is one disabling the other? Are they related? How are these going to go head to head?
Yeah. My gut says one's server and one's client side, but I believe, and this is my guess, maybe I'm wrong, I believe the configure SMB v1 disabled is unilaterally disabling SMB v1, whereas one is the client side driver. If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong, but I'm going to take the SMB v1 unilaterally disabled versus the actual client side driver vulnerability and attack sides, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Matt, SMB1 disabled because that shuts down SMB incoming altogether.
Yeah.
So whether I have the client driver on or not, it can't get into my box because I've disabled that. I could potentially go out to another box using SMB1, but I'm not going to get into my machine.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Lawrence, you got it.
Opposite. Right there. That's exactly right.
Might just be all wrong, and it's like 84-12 or something.
That would be,
like it's the other
that'd
way.
be hilarious.
That would be.
What do I not know
really
about
sad.
this?
That'd be sad.
The matchup we didn't want. Austin, any final words before we find out?
You bet on Purdue on the left over there?
I will be. Yeah. I will be honest with you. I had the client driver, but I just had to stick with the legacy eliminator because of all the trauma that I've had. But anyways, we'll see how it all shakes out.
And with no biases and no prompt change, this game went to overtime.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
I had to toss another prompt saying there must be a winner.
Oh, wow.
Can you guys believe that the LLM called out overtime?
I am blown away that it made a non-deterministic answer. That's you're growing, co-pilot. Look at you growing up.
Look at you not wanting to box yourself in.
Right? Yeah, right? Look at you having other angles.
At 99.99 going into
101
overtime,
SMBV1. Let's go.
I did put the note. The tiebreaker decision is the more defensive against outbound contexts.
Why?
The winner is configure SMBV1 disabled. That did not format right, but we are the loser is client driver. If you can't read,
do you mean inbound slide. Or make sure I understand the directionality? You mean outbound from the victim or outbound from the attacker?
Oh, sorry. No, I totally said it backwards. The loser is because of that. My bad.
Okay. All right, we good now. All right,
you're about ready to make,
and that's why we have a panel of SMEs for the commentators who try to read the LLM's notes. Josh, sorry, I interrupted you. What you got?
Mine, Matt, and Lawrence's head explode when you're like, "Oh yeah, prioritize outbound."
Yeah.
Like,
what?
That's how my hair turned loose. Actually, Josh. I don't know if you knew that or not.
They say before I made that mistake, Josh still had his full beard and it got ripped out. I'm kidding.
Oh.
All right. And the other final 4 matchup. Now that password length has been eliminated, we have the Firewall Public going against LSAS, the Road Warrior against LSAS Lockdown.
I'm gonna take the original argument I made before of Windows Firewall Public Open, just from the inbound aspect of that by delineation from actually landing on the machine itself already. So I'm gonna take the Firewall Public. Yeah.
Final answer.
I'm doing the same, and the default behavior of a Windows box. If we have one control, right, one thing, the default behavior of the Windows box is that all networks are public. So yeah, I'm going with the firewall.
I think I'm going to look at this and go, it'll be a very, very tight game, but I think the edge is going to go to the SSP, AP, and LSAS, just because that is more system level persistence than the Windows Firewall public on. But I'm talking like probably within 2 points.
Yeah, it's going to be close. Austin, I don't know if I had to bring out my game day voice, to really do this effectively.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Are you going to read me a bedtime story too?
Oh, there you go.
Tell me what an asset is, and I'll tell you what your next decision is.
I will also say, and before I reveal the winner here, it is an important call out. In the final four, in the round of 64, we had a lot of browser setting upsets. But now that we're down to the final four, the OS seems to have been taken control, and that OS level is weighted heavier by the LLM's mindset. With that said, the winner of this and off to the championship game is LSAS by a buzzer beater. A half-court shot, they say.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. All right, before we move on, I have to say, Matt, you need to go and rewatch Real Genius.
Okay.
That voice is the voice of God. That was amazing.
Oh, that's perfect. Then I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
But are you going to fill my house with popcorn?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Like, you can't see it right now, but I am actually wearing the fuzzy bunny slippers from that movie.
That's epic.
That
and extra amazing. Points if you can lift your leg up that high for us to see it there, Josh.
Yeah, that's not happening. I'm old.
Okay. Austin's got us covered.
We'll get here. I'll highlight. We'll get the Bruin Harden over here to pop in and handle putting his legs up.
Oh gosh.
Got the mascot of Misconfiguration Madness coming in here today, and he actually has his own configuration vest that is literally pinned on because it's a couple sizes too small for a 7-foot teddy bear.
Exactly. I love that you have an RV, Zach, and that you have an entire teddy bear human-sized thing taking up one portion of your available space inside this thing. Yeah. That's a commitment. I mean, that's a choice, that's a choice.
To be transparent, it's because this guy loves to sleep right next to him.
Oh,
you notice
funny.
The cat right on there. He loves to sunbathe next to his buddy, the Bruin.
That's awesome.
All right. That championship we've only dreamed about having. Oh, man. It's time, guys. The inaugural games is coming to a close. This is a big moment. Next year, prizes. Next year, voting. It's going to be a whole ordeal. We're going to create a board through potentially CyberRise. Agnostic rule setting constraints. It's going to be huge. But let's dive into it. And before we do, on no behalf others, thank you to our sponsors here, Sention Managed Endpoint Hardening. Hardening all these settings that we talk about here can be done through an automated platform. So thank you again for listening in and hearing about the champion. LSAS against SMB1. Wow. The choice of Josh Copeland to take the chip. You made it.
It's got to be SMB1 disabled. And I just want to put it on record that day one of this competition, I picked SMB1 disabled as a champion.
You did. So, you did. Yeah, you did. You know what, though? Does that make you feel like a really old coach? Right? Because at some point you're like, why is it even on? Why do we have a protocol from 407 eons ago, or at least, I think, that is on by default, y'all? Stop handing people weapons when they walk into the party. Let's stop. We mind doing that?
Not just that, but it is on by default, and the developers themselves have all but begged publicly that you turn this off, right? Public statements.
He's already dead.
But let's be clear. How many times do you go to an environment and someone's still actively using SMB?
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you go,
every hacker on the planet.
All right, then we have to agree we're all like just beating this to death, but it's SMBv1 over LSAS, even with the weighting that Zach said about how endpoints are being treated. I guess they're both endpoints. Yeah, SMBv1. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm following the Josh train.
I mean, in fairness, SMBv1 is universal, right? It's server side. It's everything. So.
Man, and just as a reminder out there to the audience, this is probably the most common misconfiguration found out there whenever Sention onboards a new partner. This is something still in the wild, not segmented off, and definitely not a documented exception when it's found. Austin, any final comments before we find out about this champion?
You know, I'm really proud of ACT as part of the operating system. It was a great season, and even though they didn't make it to the Final Four, you know, they put in a lot of heart and effort. But my money is on SMB1. It's been a pleasure doing this with y'all, but let's see how it all shakes out.
Your team had a good season. It was a good game. They didn't
I'll
win. They had a good game.
Exactly.
We're proud. We're proud of all of the settings that made the round of 64 here. You know, last comment. CIS has 500 different recommendations on the OS alone. Another 100 on the browser. Another 50 some on Adobe. Another 70 on 365. There's thousands. If an asset exists, a configuration follows.
What is an asset, though, Zach? What is an asset?
You see, an asset is anything that can store or process data.
Yeah.
What doesn't store or process data? Huh? What is not an asset? Give examples. Am I an asset, Matt? Tell me.
I don't know how well you store or process data, but I know it's coming through there. So yeah, probably.
One ear to the other, and to the championship we go.
Oh,
LSAS with the upset, everybody.
No.
Holy hell.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, no way.
What is this?
The ref was paid off. This is not okay. I think somebody tainted and did AI poisoning.
These settings were deflated.
This is deflate gate. Yeah. This is a white text gate. You hid white text in the prompt. I know you did. I know you did.
I just lost a house that I don't even have. Like I know.
It's
wow.
There's a reason you're in the Airbnb.
He's like, Zach, by the way,
I'm on the run. I'm actually trying to get to Canada to hide, but yeah. Sorry, I'm up in Minnesota if that wasn't clear.
Okay.
Any other self-doxing we care to?
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Maybe find
I'm gonna go home now.
I just want to know what your ChatGPT said. Okay.
Let's talk about it, guys. Why it wins. It is shutting down credential dumping, blocks the key path for post exploitation, which is interesting. It valued the post. Defends the system's most sensitive targets with no external dependencies, which was one of the qualifiers, and delivers massive value as a standalone setting. Any lies in this explanation?
So I'm going to say no lies, but I have a counter argument. SMBv1 is a direct RCE vector. It requires no user interaction. It's a global ransomware outbreak, happens dozens of times. The LSAS SSP injection is dangerous, but it requires you to have initial access in the first place.
Right. I already used that SMBv1. I walked over the dead corpse of that SMBv1 setting to go deal with this one. So it's like that meme where you're looking back at the other girl when you're walking with the one girl. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We've seen that one before, right? Yeah, but the point is, like, genuinely, I'm with Josh on this one. I'm shocked by it. I think the initial access vector should have been heavily weighted. I feel like this whole thing's a foul, and I would like an official review. In fact, I'd like to start seeing what has happened on these LLMs. I'd like to audit every single one of them. I feel like there has been absolute malfeasance in this competition. Yeah, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, I'd like that in the NFL as well, but it hasn't happened yet.
Not gonna happen.
I do disagree. I think genuinely, though, joking aside, there's also another aspect about this we can take away, which is comma space. It depends. If there is nothing in LSAS, there isn't much to dump. And it really does depend on whether you're Azure Active Directory bound versus Active Directory bound and the way those credentials might be handled and stored, right? And so there are so many things that it depends. Just to add a little bit of wraparound for this of the LLMs having to make a choice in a vacuum. We are not so lucky. We have lots of things that make that depend as a statement, but that's why you choose and make decisions on each one and then stand by them and enforce them. Yeah.
Man, this was a fucking run. This was wild, guys. Lawrence, first time panelist, first time commentator. I'm exactly what you thought.
I'm gonna go crawl in a hole now because apparently something that has a higher difficulty of exploitability wins over something that is trivial that most middle schoolers can do.
It is an LLM, Lawrence. It does hallucinate. Yes,
it is clearly hallucinating in this instance. But you know what? I won't fault Zach for that one. But I will say that we do need this to be like have an official review because there's a lot. Yeah.
So as someone who teaches about AI and machine learning, this is the real reason why you don't universally trust your LLM, that you need to have a real person review the results to make sure they actually pass a sanity check. Because things like this happen where, SMB V1 gets defeated by SSP and LSAS for reasons nobody that has actual, electrons and neurons passing through their ears.
Right.
Make a reason.
Puts ears on the side of an LLM. He's like, look, he's got electrons and neurons between there or something. You know what I mean?
That's totally how it's going to be.
I think we've beaten this to death.
Well,
yeah, I think so.
It was the inaugural games. Post bracket debrief. This is something that we talk about constantly. Configuration management. It's growing in popularity. It's growing in compliance requirements. This is something that's becoming top of mind even more so than ever before. So, if panelists, if you don't mind, we'll go around. What was the takeaway from this games, and what's the outlook of importance for configuration management going into, I was going to say 2026, but it is April right now. How about going into RSA?
Imagine, I'll say this, and I'll just because, it's not like me to go first. I apologize, but I'll say this, like, there is no condition where you get a car, you buy it from a reputable dealer. As you're driving, you dodge one wheel falling off. You realize that the window's going to fall out, that the doors aren't locked, that the gasoline's just kind of poured in the floorboard. And you just got to take a cup and scoop it over there and dump it over in the gas tank. Like, none of that happens. And yet with our machines, you are shipped a weapon. You are shipped by default a unconfigured weapon. And everything's on. And when you think about it, even all these joking that we had about the different configurations, they're forced on you to choose. It's set up for the lowest idiot that's still rocking an XP box from 400 years ago that's running a thing called Coats 2000 or Av Manager 2000 or a host of them that still require SMB V1. And so some poor schmuck that doesn't know any better goes, well, I guess I'm going to turn this on to make this stuff work or I'm going to get fired by my client. And that's the way the world works. Yeah. And we are evident that if you're going to be in the self-selected ones that don't want to die, you're going to realize that your job is to try to remove as much as you can first, turn on all the settings and back away from that. That's principle of least privilege and zero trust with something that's shipped to you in the worst configuration you're ever going to get it. All right, I'm gonna get off my soapbox before I fall and break my neck, but that's my thought on it.
I got a follow up there though, because you said something, I don't know, a little controversial maybe, but if you don't do this, you're going to die, right?
Yeah,
is there a minimum requirement that you see on the horizon for an MSP to stay an MSP or stay successful? Is that something that could potentially?
Well, I mean, if I ever retired from being a good guy and I was going to move forward, I would just hack MSPs. Number one, they have the tools I can turn off to protect the clients. I get to literally just sign in as them and turn them off, and then I can sign in conveniently, run my code. Why would I ever go and attack an end customer if I wanted to look at scale? right? And so when you think about it, that's one of many. You just pulled my string. You're doing this on point, Zach. You give me all damn fired
it's like
up.
I hang out with you a little, like weekly
I think
at this point.
if I was to put it, plainly, like I'm kind of Thanos-y right now. Like I might snap a couple times if I was honest when it comes to practitioners, because we are out there not knowing these things. Even myself, I have my own blind areas, right? We all have to be better. But it starts with at least admitting that we need to deal with these configurations and not coming up with some brand new term in Gartner for something that should have been, maybe we should lock the front door, stupid, a long time ago. Like it's not attack surface management. It's
know where the front door is.
Anyways, but yeah, I will say MSPs are going to grow far higher challenges, both regulatory compliance, contractually, and just getting shot at. From that perspective, and it's your job to at least be defensible in the choices you made and the way you approached it. And remember that for sure you've got to do these on you. You're the one in charge of the big G for governance for that. And if you're not doing it, how the hell are you selling it to your clients? So yeah, there's a bunch to unpack there. I got hours worth.
We could do a whole nother session. And one more shout out to what Matt Lee's doing in the community. Cyber Rise is definitely having a focus on this, and there is a Discord community that is growing, and I will share the link in the chat, but definitely get involved, stay up to date. Really excited to be part of it personally and as a company. Lawrence, man. Well, no, let's do Josh first. Lawrence is new. Lawrence can close us out. Josh, where are you at, buddy? We can let Lawrence close.
So I'd like to point between the 5 people on this screen, we have probably nearly 100 years
probably
IT and cybersecurity.
Yeah.
That might be just not alone, right?
I'm like,
no.
How hard
I'm on the 84.
That level of experience for us to sit here and go, one, what does that setting really do?
Yeah.
Get through like the counting the number of double negatives to determine whether it's on or off, or if I disable the enable of the disable, what does that really mean? I'm like, if it's that hard for us, and we have 100 years experience between all of us, what shot does somebody have that is just coming in, trying to manage a, small company that has 100 employees, and you have one IT person that's running that's doing everything? And the answer is 0. You've got to have frameworks, you have to have tools, you have to have expertise to help you do that. And whether you bring in a CIS benchmark, or you pulling in something like a DISA-STIG that's telling you very granularly, go here, click this button, or pulling in something like Sention that's going to be able to help you click a button and do 80% of it for you automatically. You've got to have that level of expertise in it, because if it's hard for this group with 100 years experience, it's hard for everyone. It's why we've known that we have to do hardening for as long as I've been in cybersecurity, and why people have not done system hardening, because it's not easy. There's not, typically up until the last couple of years, been tools that made it, click a button and you're done.
And you, in that one, you actually said something Matt said, right? That IT admin, that one person who's responsible for keeping the business running, right? Is there any, follow-up thought exercise, like what needs to change for that one person IT shop to actually prioritize a little bit of security, not necessarily over operations as a whole? Obviously there has to be a president, but is there any single thing you can call out that might need to change for that one IT admin to have a little bit of power?
So I think it's already happening in cybersecurity insurance. Cybersecurity insurance is getting far more granular at the things that they're looking for before they write a policy. And you're having to fill out all of these questionnaires. And if you don't fill that out properly, they absolutely are taking you to court to not pay your claim. So that's giving organizations a little bit of juice to say, here's what I have to do. And if I answer no to this question, it increases our cybersecurity insurance policy by, $10,000 a year. And it only cost me $1,000 to fix this. Give me the $1,000 to fix this thing. Let me take, to Matt's point, let me take the rock off the pile that you're landing in. You have one less rock.
Grandpa might need to hop on as a guest speaker. Grandpa and Mama K.
He can just get an aspirin in the air with a 22. So like with a rock, he's got a high surface area of attack, right? There's just the accuracy is amazing. Like it's amazing. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And Austin, speaking of 100 years experience, man, you're tossing a few months into that bubble. And, you know, not to downplay that with a joke, but this idea, gamifying configs, putting us in a room, was originally your idea, man. So kudos to you for making configs a little bit more fun than I've been able to do in the last few years. But what do you think of your experiment?
I've loved this process. First off, thank you to everybody that joined and was a part of this. I found it extremely educational. And what I think is difficult is to analyze these things in a vacuum too, because none of these settings are hopefully in a vacuum, whatever. There should be complementary controls and stuff like that. But I love the discussions that we had and diving deeper into each one. I don't know. It's been a whirlwind since January moving into this space, but I just got to say one thing that's kind of unrelated. The community, the MSP community, the cybersecurity community, what I love is that everybody's helpful and they want the best for everybody for the most part, by and large, I think. And so this is just another example of people with expertise coming in and helping out and educating and, I don't know, trying to make some fun with it too. So thank you all again. And I'm really looking forward to next year. And we'll definitely have a meeting of the minds to make sure that our LMM, whatever the script.
No, boys, we're doing vertical and horizontal LLMs to be able to pass back and forth between a side ref, right, and all of them will have different functions.
We're gonna have a real game,
and they're gonna score it. We're gonna have a rubric, bro. My mind's just going right now, man. There's so many things we can do.
By next year, we're gonna have actually a general AI that will be.
Oh, don't say. All right, I'm gonna see myself out.
Yeah, it's gonna be self-aware at that.
And we
point,
love you, Overlord.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to
Thank you,
yeah.
So that's a very important shout out to the MSP community, right? I mean, that's, again, CyberRise is building one, MSP Geek has one. You know, there's a lot of these out here, and call out the tech degenerates, right? This is all avenues Sention's involved with, Austin, you've gotten involved with. So very happy about it. And hell, shout out the Tech Degenerate Happy Hour, I think tonight. So it is a free welcome, everyone, if you guys want to join. Lawrence, man, first time, you really didn't know much going into it. I just told you we had a matchup contest. Right. What was your takeaway? What's your impact to leave the audience with on where configuration management is going?
Well, you know, I think before we look at where it's going, I think we should look at where it came from. And I want to just kind of foot stomp something that was said earlier. Right, you have 1,000 give or take configurations, like meaningful configurations on any single one endpoint out of the box, and like it's easy to villainize Microsoft for just turning everything on, but like I like to say it's General Motors to grandma. Like they have one operating system that has to span that entire continuum, and of course it's going to be configured for grandma, right? Like it's everything's going to be on. It's going to be easy, and you know it's going to be made so that she can look up her recipes online, and right, that's about it. And then the onus and burden that has been expected, has been inferred, has been just kind of under the surface there. That, you know, if you need more security, if you are running this in a more critical environment, then you, as a consumer of that, as a user of that you will do the due diligence, that you will do the research, that you will do that. And of course, we know that no one person can, right? Yeah. I mean, it's impossible. And much less to understand the configurations and their impact, and think in the mind of an attacker. We were every one of us was in line with SMB v1 because, right, it's the most easily exploitable protocol that's out there. But I think, Matt, you hit the nail on the head. Like, if you think like an attacker, right, you're going to find the lowest common denominator, the lowest cost way to carry out your actions on your objectives. And I think that's what that's what we need to look for as we look forward inside of hardening and configuration management, right? We have an amazing resource in the offense informs defense of the CIS controls. We have an incredible, and Josh, I love the fact you mentioned STIGs, right? I'm in the DoD space, and so like when the National Vulnerability Database, like NVD, and the NCP, the National Checklist Program, like I remember like stumbling on those years ago, going, wait a minute, like actual like red teamers spent time to figure out the things that like are easy to break. Yeah, of course. And they publish this for free. What? Right? And exactly. So right, we have this data, and it's funny, but it's not. I mean, we're talking about a 20-year-old protocol here that is still on by default, that is still vulnerable, that is still an attack vector. And so I think if we look at where things are going, I think a rising tide raises all ships. I think getting awareness that these things have to be done, that it is not secure by default. And to give a little hat tip to CISA, not secure by design, not secure by default, right?
I saw the head.
Yeah, I was like,
is he gonna shout him out verbatim, or is he gonna?
I really wanted to say, like, hat tip to former director Easterly on that one.
Yeah, that's how I was seeing in my heart too. Yeah, hat tip to what was the artist formerly known as CISA.
Yeah, exactly. But like in fairness, right? CISA is a lot of really amazing people. And so yeah, so I think looking at where we're going. We have to raise the awareness. I think as an MSP, it's something that we shouldn't be like just talking about. We should be doing and trying to educate and actually explain to people, like, why do we need to turn these things off and get these organizations looking more like General Motors and less like grandma. And I think the more of this that we do, the better. And I have to say, like, hat tip Austin, this is I love gamification. Right, like I am the original acronym B winner. And so that is I love gamification. So great way to do it. This is amazing.
That's awesome here. And it's funny you say grandma's house, because the pitch it presentation I gave, my opening line was Windows is designed for your grandma and the Fortune 500. Yeah. Like, that was literally my opening line. So I love that you called that out.
It's true.
And to take that one step further, I mean, the thing we can all do in this room, and we did attempt to do in this room, is create that better awareness. The thing I want to take that a step further is this is not a one-time thing, right? If you look at the browser alone, Chrome just in the last 2 months added 7 different AI enabled by default settings on just a Chrome update. They didn't like explicitly ask you, do you want this enabled? It's enabled by default.
No, Zach, it's secure by default. I know that for sure.
Sorry,
There's no way. Oh wait, no, that's exactly wrong.
Usable by default.
Matt, that goes in the wrong answers only category.
Yeah. Hey, whoa. Stop giving away our breakfast panel at Beyond, bro. Stop giving away our breakfast panel at Beyond.
Right?
Yeah, it's going to be good.
But that's the thing. These settings are getting added, and there's potentially some OS settings that likely will have AI enabled by default eventually, right? These are things getting OEM'd, right? We see it with ChatGPT and Max right now, right? We know who funds OpenAI, right? These are the things that could be getting added to the OS and are going to be added and need to be reviewed. Awareness is what we can do in this room, but actually reviewing your baseline, updating your baseline, and most of all, making sure when you apply the baseline, it stays applied, it stays enforced, which is a huge challenge today with existing mediums, right? That's something that Sention really built its platform off of. How can we assure this setting is what we say it is? So, I mean, that's huge. And the last thing I'll leave it with is actually something Austin said, right? We talk about these settings in a vacuum, but also application of these settings is not in a vacuum. We're not disabling SMB1 on a pre-deployed device. A lot of the time, we're disabling SMB1 in an in-production environment. These machines need to actively be used while we're making changes. There is no safe vacuum to test production. Production is production, right? So awareness is great. Reviewing, applying, and just everyone needs to lift each other up to get configuration as a top of mind security layer. All right, guys, I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you for the closing thoughts from everyone. Thank you for being part of the inaugural games. We are having a vote competition next year, prizes and everything under the sun. Look